Well, for more, we're joined by Amin Saikal in Canberra, Australia. He's a Professor Emeritus of Middle Eastern Studies at the Australian National University. Good to have you with us, Professor. Firstly, when it comes to this leaked document that Israeli officials now say came from their intelligence ministry, doesn't it prove that Israel's ultimate aim is to make Gaza uninhabitable so that the people of Gaza are forced to leave it?
I think that may be one of the scenarios that the Israelis are considering, but it's an absurd scenario, simply because that Arab countries, and particularly Egypt, has said that they are not going to accept any Palestinian refugees for a very simple reason, that they don't want the Gaza to be emptied of the Palestinians, and therefore enable Israel to expand its territorial conquest in the region.
Well, that's right, because that under point 3, the alternative 3, the relocation of Gazans to Sinai, it would essentially mean that Palestinians would be displaced for a third time. The first time before and after the creation of the State of Israel in 1948, the second time being the Nakba, the setback after the Arab-Israeli War of '67, and now Israel wants them to be displaced yet again. How should the international community respond to such an absurd option?
I think that's the view of some of the very extremist elements within the Netanyahu's cabinet. But I think the international community's response should be that the Palestinians must stay in Gaza, because that is their place of residence, and they've been there for a long time. As you pointed out, there was an expulsion of Palestinians in the 1948 war and then the 1967 war, and this one cannot really be justified in any way whatsoever. The fight is between Israel and Hamas, not Israel and 2.3 million civilian population of Gaza. Many of these people have got absolutely nothing to do with either Hamas's actions or, for that matter, harboring any major hostility towards Israel. But that was really before the 7th of October. But now that Israel has carried out massive bombing and the civilian casualties keep going up to now reaching something like close to 10,000, and probably will go a lot more once the Israeli forces moved into the Gaza city, and there's urban warfare and Israeli bombardment will intensify. Then I think that is going to confront not only Israel but the international community about what to do with this problem. And I think the United States will have to consider the different options, and the time will have really come to call for a ceasefire. Yes. And as it's been pointed out by many analysts, including some Israeli figures, that this problem is not going to be solved by military. It requires a comprehensive political resolution of the problem.
Professor, can I ask you about the other two options? The first one being the return of the Palestinian Authority to Gaza. You mentioned that Israel says its main aim is to wipe Hamas off the map, but we know Hamas was elected in parliamentary elections by the people of Gaza in 2006. It formed a government in 2007. So these are the rightly elected leaders of that territory. They overwhelmingly rejected the authority of the Palestinian Authority and Mahmoud Abbas. What's your view on that first option, essentially installing leaders that the people of Gaza never elected?
Well, I mean, as you pointed out, Hamas did win the 2006 elections, but of course, Israel and the United States rejected the outcome of that election. And that also contributed significantly to the split between the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank and the Hamas in Gaza. I think there has to be negotiations between Hamas and the Palestinian Authority. Should it come to the point that the Palestinian Authority exert any influence, or for that matter, take over governance in Gaza. I mean, as your reporter pointed out, Hamas is not just an organization, but it's not a military organization alone. It is a political organization. It is an idea, and it is an ideology which may not really die with the massive operations that Israel has mounted. I mean, we've seen that in the case of Afghanistan. The United States went into Afghanistan in order to destroy Al-Qaeda and the Taliban, and it fought the Taliban for 20 years, and at the end it had to really bow out and to return the power basically or essentially to the Taliban. And of course Taliban have remained aligned with Al-Qaeda, and we know that the Al-Qaeda operates in Afghanistan and different provinces. And I think this is something that the Israeli authorities and of course the international backers of Israel would have to consider very seriously.
And Professor, just briefly, can we look at option 2 in this leaked Israeli intelligence document, the return of Arab rule over the Palestinian territories? At the moment, Jordan, for example, is notionally the custodian of the holy sites in East Jerusalem, but in practice, they're not, are they? It is Israeli authorities who have full control. What do you make of option 2, potentially putting Jordan, Egypt, or a combination in charge of the territories? It doesn't sound feasible, does it?
I don't think so, because Jordan really relinquished its control of the West Bank, a long time ago, as the custodian of the area. And I doubted very seriously that either Jordan or Egypt would be very much interested in governing the West Bank, East Jerusalem, as the capital of the independent Palestinian state, and for that matter, Gaza. And also, let's not forget that Gaza is territorially separated from the West Bank, and if you want to have a united Palestinian state, whenever that could possibly eventuate, then there has to be a territorial corridor between the West Bank and Gaza. That's not something that Israel would easily agree to. But on the other hand, if this war proves to be very costly for both sides, and it may come to the point that the international community will have to step in and try to get the Israelis to negotiate with the Palestinian Authority for a kind of political settlement which could result in creation of a viable Palestinian state. I mean, otherwise, whatever state comes into existence is not going to be terribly viable. And we know that also Israel has a lot of settlements in the West Bank, and there are some 700,000 Israeli settlers live there. And what is going to really happen to these settlements and the future of these settlements, and that all has to be negotiated between Israel and the Palestinian Authority, and under the auspices of the international community.
Okay, Professor Amin Saikal, we will have to leave it there, but thank you so much for sharing your analysis with us. I really appreciate it.